God. Did all that walking yesterday.
Satisfy is waiting for your data upload.
Uh, okay. No. Okay. Entertainment. No, this is definitely not made for kids. Mm, yeah. Yeah. Actually. Yeah. Okay. Uh. Ugh. Oh boy. Wait, what?
Reoccurring side character I talk about on my channel from time to time. Someone who is, by all possible definitions, a hero, a very, very important presence in this country. And unfortunately, the only time his name is invoked is when there are some villains looking literally slit his throat on the street.
Yeah. Oh. Yo. Yeah. Actually, select stream, refresh. Yeah. Okay. We're back with another stream now. One thing I really wish I had right now was a fucking energy drink. Something, you know. Uh,
What's up, everybody? And happy 3-3. I can't.
Whew. I need some water. Give me a second. Ow. 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 Ooh. Ow. Alright. Okay. One other thing I should probably do, and I should do that. Ow. Ooh. Ow. Copy. Okay. Oh, eat shit. Eat shit. I'll just do hashtag YouTube. I'm 100% aware that fucking Twitter hates it when you link to websites that are outside of it, and they'll suppress your fucking post. But you know what? Whatever. Whatever. I'm wondering if they fixed it. Yeah, X messaging for some fucking reason decided to stop working, and it makes no sense to me why it's not working. It makes absolutely no sense to me.
Hello, everybody. My name is Markiplier.
When did he start playing that? I missed the old UI a little bit, even though it. What the fuck? Chickenaholic. Okay, yeah. What's this? I am confused. Drunk mom gets her fifth DUI. At this point, I'm 100% convinced that some of these people who are always getting DUIs, they're like, there's something going on that they're not in. There's just something in their life that's not going well for them. There's just something in their life not going well for them. No, I don't know what it is. I also don't feel like watching Penguin Zero either because he can be kind of boring and slow.
It's critical, and you're watching a 24-hour camping challenge.
Yep, we're gonna be sitting here for 24 hours.
He's gonna be sitting here with his friends.
You're one of my friends.
I am not now. We're not
chopping
friends.
wood, doing it the old-fashioned way. We bought best camping equipment that your local place had.
So I'm here because we did a video where I gave a guy 10 grand, or actually two guys, 10 grand a day. They lived in the woods and they lived here. This exact spot used to be a tent and stuff. They survived here for 74 days. So surely Charlie and his friends can survive here for 24 hours.
Yeah, I'm an outdoorsy guy. Everyone knows that, so there should be no problem.
Real man.
I tried everything to help with my gut health. As soon as I started eating Factor's Mediterranean meals, I was shocked.
Weak men run to the bathroom every 15-20 minutes. I get a little nervous, I gotta go take a crap. There is no scenario in any way, shape, or form that your woman should be driving you around. Don't tell me that you're drunk.
When I ask you what makes a strong man, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? I'll give you a second, really think about it. Okay, your time's up. Don't worry, I don't need to actually hear your answer because I know it's wrong. Because I know, in my heart, that the true measure of a man is whether or not he gets all of his life advice and rules on being a man in the modern world from a guy on TikTok. If some other dude isn't telling you what to do 24/7, are you really a man? Ladies and gentlemen, I am happy to announce, with like 92% certainty, that the existence of internet alpha males is funny again. Now I say this.
Yeah, these guys are, I'm sorry, but almost all these internet alpha males are just selling some fucking Ponzi scheme. They are. They're selling some sort of fucking Ponzi scheme. And unfortunately, there are people who will literally fall for it. They'll fall for it. They'll fall for a Ponzi scheme. They will. And it's not something that, you know, it preys on people who are desperate or who are, you know, struggling in the moment. And there are a lot of people who are looking for someone who has all the answers or pretends to have all the answers because, you know, when people are desperate, they look for, you know, the answers for something that they don't have the answer to. You know, if they got a problem, they're going to look to, you know, Master Joe of the, you know, tight nutsack Federation or something. I don't fucking know. Just some fucking name some random fucking Ponzi scheme here type situation, you know? And it's guys like this that kind of just get to me and it's like, yeah, great, wonderful. I love knowing that this guy is whatchamacallit, taking people's stuff. Give me 1 second. I think I heard something. Okay, I'm back.
Because these dorks have been around forever, but for the longest time it was just channels like Alpha M who, while I don't think they were trying to do anything harmful, they were just constantly giving out the worst, most dude bro advice possible, and it didn't take long for 99% of the population to not take anything that they said seriously. So it became like an inside joke and it was just funny. But then, through a series of events, we found ourselves in like the Andrew Tate manosphere era, where suddenly these dudes were now saying things that were like 10 times more stupid and 10 times more dangerous, which again would probably not have been that big of a deal if nobody was taking them seriously still, but the kicker was that people were now taking them 10 times more seriously. So we
And there are people on the internet that you can go to who are good resources for things, but you can also tell guys like this are, again, they're not just engagement farming grifters, but they're the type of grifter who preys on people who are desperate, and that's the whole point. They're not good people at all. They just prey on people who are desperate, who want answers for something they don't have the answer that they really don't have the answer to, but they're going to make it sound like it's the answer that they need, when in reality it's not. Okay, it's kind of like the snake oil salesman situation, or, you know, whenever someone is selling you something and they say it's the answer to like all your problems or something like that, that's usually a sign that it probably isn't. And then there are other people who say, you know, well, there's, oh God, I'm probably not wording it right. What I'm essentially saying is, people need to listen to the information, discern whether it's real or fake, and decide if they want to believe in it or not. Now, when there are desperate people who are in situations like that, where they need to discern things, that can be a little difficult. And, you know, this guy's saying, you know, oh, you know, if you're running to the bathroom every 15, 20 minutes, it's wrong. Oh, you're not a man if you're like, no. I'm going to actually go ahead and take a dump right now. This guy hates the fact that a dude has to take a dump. That's stupid. I'll be right back. I'm back. The deadliest gun in the us. We live in the us. Oh, we live in the us. Okay, anyway.
We just ended up with like 2 years of the most batshit backwards misogynistic people being like the top influencers of the world. But then, you know, those 2 years passed. The 14-year-olds who made up their audience got a little bit more frontal lobe development and realized, oh, this is kind of stupid. They all seem to lose their following overnight, and now Andrew Tate's out there like fucking taking fights with TikTokers and getting his shit rocked because, I don't know, he's probably broke. Anyways, the moral of the story is that I feel like the existence of these losers is funny again, because now when we have a TikTok alpha male saying stuff like, if you take a shit in public, you're a vulnerable beta, you don't have to worry about millions of people taking it seriously. Yeah, so allow me to introduce you to a TikToker named Rafa Conde, who makes videos that like 3 or 4 years ago probably would have made him enough money to buy a fleet of Bugattis, but these days just makes him look silly. So I've gathered a collection of his TikToks today, and we're gonna start with the one that introduced me to this man, which will hopefully, at least for your sake, change your opinion on pooping. Please subscribe.
Weak men run to the bathroom every 15-20 minutes. They get a little nervous, they gotta go take a crap, they gotta go take a piss. And when you walk into a public restroom and you see a guy taking a crap, you know, that's embarrassing. I gotta tell you, this is the most vulnerable position a man is ever gonna be in. Taking a crap, anyone can open the door, stab you in the neck with a...
You know, this is so fucking stupid. This is so stupid. Look, man, I take a dump when I have to take a dump. When I go to work, I take a dump. When I'm at home, I take a dump. The only place I don't take a dump at is fucking Walmart or Target or really any other fucking place like that, because their bathrooms are like, it's like gorillas fucking shit in there. The fucking, like, the bathrooms at my work, they literally keep those clean. Almost what feels like every few hours or so. That's like they always clean those things. It's like they watch them like a hawk. The minute something happens in them, it's like they clean them. So I don't have an issue using those, but the only reason why I don't use fucking bathrooms at places like Walmart or Target, it's because it's cough cough, hint hint, wink wink, a very high traffic public area. I mean, yeah, a college is a high traffic public area as well. But I also work there, and I know how the janitorial staff works. They clean those things like crazy. And on top of that, I even wipe down the toilet seat before I even sit on it. I literally wet a piece of paper towel, put soap on it, and then wipe it and wash it before I even sit on it. I literally do that. But saying that you're going to get attacked and stabbed by somebody for taking a dump in public is ridiculous. I'm sorry.
The knife. Think about that for a moment.
No. I'm not thinking about it because, yeah, is it possible that it could happen? Yes. It's possible somebody could be crazy and they'll break the door down and use a knife on you. But the chances of it of it happening are pretty low. And I don't think anyone's going to want to do something to somebody in a bathroom, considering the fact that you can lock the door. You can lock the door to the stall. Oh, but they can kick the door down or they can crawl under it. Like, dude, stop. No one's breaking down a fucking door just to get to you and threaten you with a knife. If somebody wanted to get somebody with, like, yeah, you would go and get them when they get out of the stall. Not while they're in it, when they get out of the stall. And even then, if it's in the public area, it's going to be kind of hard to do it, even in a public bathroom, because there are people going in and out of there all the time.
Alright, so like I said, this is the video that introduced me to Rafa. Apologies for the shitty quality. This is the only version of the video I could find. I guess he deleted the original because he realized this is just too good of advice to be giving out for free. But personally, I have some issues with this claim for a lot of reasons. First off, if you're out taking a shit in public and you're thinking about somebody breaking down the door and stabbing you in the neck, I think you've got some shit you need to work out in your free time. That's not a normal thought to have. Also, counter argument, I disagree that this is the most vulnerable position a man can be in. I can think of many far more vulnerable positions. At least sitting on a toilet, you've got your eyes in front of you. I'd imagine something like face down, ass up is far more vulnerable. Also, the idea that needing to piss makes you a weak man. Yeah, these guys need serious help.
You're a weak man if you let your woman drive you around. There is no scenario.
Quite literally, if you're a human being and you're like, hey, you know, can you drive? You know, I drove like 2 hours to fucking, like, let's say, I drove like 2 hours to like Grand Rapids, Michigan, right? And let's say you have your wife with you. Can you drive the 2 hours back? Now that, you know, after you get done whatever you're doing over there, you know, you take turns driving. So what are you supposed to do if you're tired? Like, you're not going to switch driving seats? You're not going to switch seats to have one person drive and the other one close their eyes? This is just stupid. I'm sorry, this is stupid. This is 100% stupid, because if you're somebody who is, you're driving, it, number one, doesn't matter who's driving or not. It doesn't matter if it's a woman or a man. Either or can drive each other. It happens. Dumb fucks like this think that it's an issue. Like dumb fucks who sell Ponzi schemes think it's an issue, actually. Not like real human beings who are sane and aren't, you know, trying to sell you fucking scams and shit. You know. If she drives one day and you drive the next, who cares? I don't know why. I don't get it. I don't know why they find issues with this stuff. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it at all.
Scenario in any way, shape, or form where if you are a capable man, a man with the ability to drive, that your woman should be driving you around. Don't tell me you're tired. Don't tell me that you're drunk.
You heard it here first, folks. Rafa told you how it is. You might as well just be a woman if you don't want to drive home drunk and kill your family or another family on.
Yeah, this guy's fucking stupid. Yes, so drive tired, crash. Yes, that is such good advice. Yeah, you know how many truckers actually do drive like really late, and some of them don't even sleep. And how many of them actually, like, you know, they got the fucking, you know, onboard system and everything that, like, warns them if, you know, they're veering off just in case they fall asleep at the wheel. Even then, those systems exist because that stuff has happened. And there are truckers who have actually driven off into ditches and shit and either gotten into accidents or, hell, just regular old drivers because they fell asleep at the wheel. Or they were drunk. One of the two. This is stupid. I'm sorry. This is the dumbest advice I've ever seen in my life. The dumbest advice ever. If anyone listens to this, and if you take his advice and you're drunk and you're driving, when you run, if you ever kill somebody, it's totally your fault. You're stupid. The fact that you listen to some bald fuck on the internet. Oh, God.
On the road. Are you really even a leader or a protector if you don't tell your stupid wife to give you the keys so you can go drive off a bridge? I mean, seriously, can these guys just not hear themselves? Saying that men need to be protectors and leaders of their family, while at the same time telling them that being drunk is not an excuse to not want to drive your family around, might be the dumbest shit I've ever heard a human being say.
You have to consult with your wife about simple things in life. There's a big problem. If you have to consult your wife about certain business decisions.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If you're running a family, right, and your wife is working and you're working, and you're both making money, and you need, you know, to, you got a savings, but the savings is, you know, obviously a savings can go poof real quick. What are you oh god, what are you supposed to do if you have a wife, right? And you listen to this guy's advice, and you just go ahead, and you're a dude, and you listen to this guy's advice, and you don't like fucking get your wife involved at all. You know, the other person that you married who also lives with you and will end up going into the shitter with you unless they, you know, decide to divorce your ass for doing something stupid. By the way, you know, just totally don't tell her about this really shitty business decision that you're about to do, that you're about to make, and then like put, you know, you and your family in the hole. Like, oh yeah, no, this is just such a fucking good idea. So amazing, so great. It's fantastic. This is such good advice. It's amazing. No. Again, don't listen to this bald fuck, you stupid.
About certain things that you're going to do to better yourself, there's also a problem there. Your wife should be supporting you to become the best version of yourself, to be the best leader possible. And if she does not back that, there is a freaking problem.
I swear to God, all these fucking losers are just chasing the high of being picked as like the kickball team captain in 3rd grade. They're always talking about being leaders, being this, being that. Dude, you have a fucking podcast and a TikTok channel. Like, what are you talking about? What are you leading? Telling men that if they talk to their wife about anything that they're weak losers and they're bad leaders? Hey, honey, I'm gonna buy a new house, and if you say no, we're getting a divorce. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude?
I'm usually in the front of the plane. I'm usually in the first row. I get in first and I get the hell out first. I'm in and out. I'm moving, right? Number one reason, I get to see everybody walk in, and I get to evaluate who's who and what's what. Number two, I get to be quick to that doorway, right? With the exit door. I am in a position of tactical advantage. A lot of people will say, well, usually in the rear of the plane, you have an overview of the plane. And I say, no, I need to be as close to a area of protection as possible.
I really wish I could know if...
Was this guy the president or something? I mean, if anybody actually knows who you are, like, this is the type of guy that would, like, save his own ass and, like, not help anybody with the way he's talking. Like, he may sound like somebody who, like, has everything figured out. No. Just no.
If these guys are, like, taking themselves seriously, or if they're just saying stuff like this so they can sell a course and sell a lifestyle. Because what the fuck...
Yeah, and that's one other thing. A lot of these guys just do this to sell courses, to sell some lifestyle, to sell some stupid shit that they're selling on fucking, like, their website or something. All right. You know, when you start seeing people selling stuff, and yeah, it happens all the time, even with legitimate, like, stuff that's fact, they will, like, sell shit back to you. Even with legitimate shit, like, a lot of these people will just sell shit back to you. So to make it, you know, so they can make money and also make it arbitrarily difficult, because, you know, they'll just charge you up the nose for something that you could probably find free on the internet somewhere else. So it's not just people who do Ponzi schemes that charge for dumb shit. It's people who charge for shit that may be legitimate, that probably is legitimate, but, you know, they're going to charge you for it, even though you can find it somewhere else by just doing a Google search and not have to pay a fucking cent for it. It's stupid. It's dumb. All right? It's like saying, oh, hey, learn how to, you know, let's say, build a house or something, or actually chop wood, okay? Learn how to chop wood effectively. You know, learn how to deal with knots. And then they sell a course on it. Or you can just, I don't know, watch a YouTube video and not pay like $15 a month. It's stuff like that. And that was a hypothetical example. But what I'm saying is, people will charge money for bullshit that is just not real and it's horseshit. And then people also charge for legitimate stuff. But even then, it's like, even with the legitimate stuff, at least it's something that will help and you know it'll work. Whereas guys like this are selling like snake oil. Like, they're selling like just fucking dust. That's what they're selling.
Fuck do you mean you're looking for a tactical advantage on a plane? My brother in Christ, if somebody walks onto a plane with a gun or a bomb, I don't think any sort of tactical advantage is gonna do much for you. I mean, like, what do you plan on doing? Mark Wahlberging it? Like, seriously, come on, dude.
When you see men take their shoes off and cover themselves up in a plane, I want to grab that guy by the neck and ask him what would happen if there's an incident or a situation inside that plane, because things go down. It's a sad statement when you realize that in that plane, maybe a handful of guys would step up out of the 150 that are there. And that is a reflection of what we have in our world right now.
Rafa, you know, I get it. I too like to insert myself into fantasy scenarios that I will never, ever in my entire life ever experience, and pretend that I would be braver than every other man that could ever exist because I'm just that good of a guy. Like, come on, dude, this is sad. Like, if anything, this has made you sound less like the badass you wanted to, and have instead just made it sound like you're the guy we need to be looking for when we board a plane. You just admitted to wanting to grab a guy by his neck because he's getting comfortable on a flight.
This world doesn't need more soft, agreeable men. It needs men who are dangerous.
I didn't think that Factor could help me reach my protein goals. Boy, was I wrong. Free high-protein breakfast for a year? Yeah.
But at the same time, disciplined. Men who can protect and provide, who understand that being a man is not just about how many followers you have or how well you can be.
Okay, no, this guy's bullshit because he's on TikTok and shit, and he's talking about this stuff, and I'm sure he's probably selling something on TikTok too. Probably has a website where he's selling something, and he won't tell you how to do anything until you buy his overly expensive fucking bullshit. There are dudes like this guy who've come and gone, and people like Andrew Tate, granted they were big back, I think, a couple, 2-3 years ago. Now nobody really pays much attention to them. Now it's like, when you listen to guys like this, it's just funny. It's just funny. 100% a joke. Alright? And there's absolutely no information that he can give that, number one, can't be found somewhere else on the internet. Number two, is probably bullshit. And number three, if some of the information that he does tell you, it's also probably going to be locked behind the paywall, so you're going to have to pay him for some bullshit. You know, it's not like there is anything in this information that either you can't find yourself or is bullshit.
Yeah, a keyboard warrior, or how you can virtue signal online. Listen, it's about building strength, physicality, spirituality. It's really about becoming the man your family can rely on when the world collapses around them. It's a man that walks into a room and owns it without saying a word.
That was just 30 seconds of buzzword after buzzword to create a meaningless video. We don't need more soft, agreeable, virtue signaling men. Dude, you virtue signal for a living. That's what these videos are. They are literally the definition of virtue signaling. You are just trying to tell everybody how good of a man you are and how correct you are on everything all the time when it comes to anything involving masculinity or what it means to be a man or a father or a husband. Also, the idea that what our world needs to become better is just a bunch of dangerous confrontational men is kind of crazy, dude. Seriously, what's the alpha male obsession with the word dangerous?
Men are getting softer because more men are staying home and being the mom. No wonder we're getting that softness. When men stay home and they take the role of the mother, their testosterone level goes way down. The reality is that we need stronger men in our society, more masculine men that are going to be strong leaders, strong fathers, strong husbands. Yes, we need these men, but they cannot be the nurturers at home. Women need to step up to their rightful place as the nurturers and the peacemakers at home. The women should be the ones raising your children. If we change that, if we make that dynamic shift, you're going to start seeing masculinity skyrocket in our society.
Okay, so just to make a point, I'm going to indulge in the nonsense that these guys are always spewing about how men are getting softer, it's ruining society. The idea that dudes like like this, these alpha male TikTokers and influencers somehow have convinced themselves that they aren't part of that problem is fucking hilarious to me. Brother, you make TikTok videos for a living. You think you're hard? You really think that if we're facing this like soft man epidemic that you wouldn't be grouped in there? Dude, we make videos for a living. You basically spend your days gossiping about other dudes and complaining about men. We basically have the same fucking job, and I'll tell you, it's not a hard one. So it's just laughable to me that these guys sit there making TikTok content all day and then turn around and say men taking care of their children all day long are just pussies. They should be doing real hard work like uploading to TikTok 4 times a day. It's like, shut the fuck up. A single stay-at-home parent is providing 10 times the value to the world that 100 fucking alpha male TikTokers ever could. Well, guys, what are your thoughts? Like I said, I can't take...
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, I think a lot of people say, well, you believe in the law of attraction, or manifestation. And the thing is there are actually some things out there, at least in relation to science, there is some movement there that actually is showing that, yeah, that is something that exists, whether it's either through, a lot of people are pointing like, oh, it's through quantum physics and stuff like that. And I believe to a degree, or not to a degree, but I believe it is through that. But then you have the people who will talk about the law of attraction. They won't understand a goddamn thing about fucking quantum physics. And then they'll just say some stuff like Dr. Joe Dispenza, who's a fucking chiropractor, and he's not in any way, shape, or form someone who's familiar with how quantum mechanics or quantum physics even works. It's like, oh yeah, I'm a doctor, I'm a scientist. Dude, you're a chiropractor. So it's not just like people selling shit either. It's also people who are like unqualified, or people who are trying to explain something to you who don't know anything about it. It's just ridiculous. But anyway. By the way, I'm gonna suggest if anyone is looking to just look up information, you know, about just anything in life, right? Just anything. At the end of the day, just do your own research. That's all. That's all you gotta do. Just do your own research. Don't let somebody tell you how to think or how to do anything. Just do your own research. People shouldn't be telling you how to think. That's the reality of the situation. Rabies situation is insane.
J.A. is a 50...
Okay, that's interesting.
Turn heads in the totally redesigned Subaru.
J.A. is a 50-year-old man presenting to the emergency room with anxiety, hypersalivation, and paresthesia. Para meaning deviation, like how it's used in paranormal, and esthesia meaning feeling. A deviated feeling. In this case, he had a horrible burning sensation in his forearms, but nothing was burned there. He can't speak to the admitting nurse. He has a hard time forming words. He's foaming at the mouth. His neck muscles are rigid, and clearly, something is wrong with his brain. For 15 years, Jay had been taking an herbal supplement for general health. These tablets fixed his breathing problems, he thought, and he took these at least 3 times a week, every week. 3 years ago, J.A. presented to the emergency room because something was wrong. He was dizzy and constantly out of breath, and a blood test found out why. His kidneys had completely shut down. This isn't surprising given the supplement that he had been taking for 12 years. The active ingredient...
Asaram. Or Asarum, not Asaram. Even... Though it would have been funny if it was called Asaram. It's Asarum.
Herb is from a family called Aristolochiaceae. Ancient herbal wisdom may have known this to be a very take-sparingly remedy, or better yet, just topical, skin only. You probably weren't supposed to take it long-term, or even really put it inside of your body in the first place, because...
I think they might actually sell this at the vitamin shop. I think they do. I'm not against herbal remedies. There's a lot of stuff I'm not against. I believe in herbal remedies. I believe in the law of attraction. I believe in all this other stuff. I believe in ghosts. All right. Like I'm right leaning adjacent, but and when I say right leaning adjacent, I mean like I'm not 100% going to be for everything that they say, nor am I going to believe everything that they say about everything. It's weird that I have to say I'm right leaning adjacent because I believe in like stuff like ghosts and herbal remedies and stuff. I believed in herbal remedies even when I was a kid. Like I would take herbal remedies to like deal with my own like physical ailments, and they actually worked. So at least with me, they worked fine. I don't know about anyone else, but how is this gonna lead into rabies though?
It has aristolochic acid. This is nephrotoxic, nephro referring to the kidneys, explaining why JA's kidneys were shutting down. Aristolochic acid inserts itself into kidney cell DNA. It turns the kidneys into a stiff fibrous shell incapable of functioning normally, explaining JA's kidney failure. But doctors didn't know he had been taking this supplement. He didn't tell them that because he didn't think anything of it. It was such a minor detail of his everyday life, he never gave it a second thought. Doctors start him on dialysis. This is hooking him up to a machine so that it can filter his blood for him. This will remove the wastes that should have been taken care of by his kidneys. If those wastes build up in his body, they can rot his body from the inside and very quickly shut down his heart and end everything. But this is a temporary fix while they wait for a kidney transplant. He has to go to dialysis multiple times a week. 3 years pass. JA's day finally arrives. A kidney is available. In rural Idaho, a middle-aged man...
I want to make a wild guess. This kidney was from somebody who died, who was bitten by an animal, and they got rabies from a kidney transplant. That if this is what I think if I think this is going in the direction I think it is, that is a wild way to get rabies from some guy from a donor.
Was found unresponsive in his bed. His heart had stopped beating. His family was able to find him just in time for paramedics to arrive and resuscitate him, but it wasn't in time to actually save him. At the hospital, he never regained consciousness. He was declared brain dead. On hospital day 5, that man was removed from life support. His organs were recovered and prepared, and his left kidney was determined to be a match for JA. At a hospital in Ohio, the medical team prepares JA. It's time for the kidney transplant. Just one kidney. It'll be enough that he won't need dialysis anymore, at least for now. Surgery's done, and JA seems to recover nicely. The transplanted kidney is called a graft. JA is the host. The immune system attacks things that aren't supposed to be in the body. If JA just got a new organ, then the immune system will think that that organ isn't supposed to be there. The immune system will attack that organ and destroy it while setting off a massive inflammatory reaction inside JA's body if nothing is done. This organ rejection is called graft versus host disease, but we can do something about this. Medicines were given to suppress JA's immune system. 3 of them do 3 different things. First, steroids. They decrease white blood cells. They decrease signals that kick off the immune system. Second, another specialized medicine goes into the white blood cells and stops their genes from producing immune signal molecules. Third, a final medicine stops white blood cells from replicating. It doesn't destroy them, it just stops them from becoming too numerous. This ensures that the kidney has time to acclimate inside JA's body, that blood vessels can regrow to that kidney, and that his body can recover well. On the flip side, this triplet neuters the immune system and predisposes him to infections, including ones you're not.
So it's not going in the direction I thought it would be going in, but so obviously I think I see where it's going now. His immune system is fucked, and he ends up getting rabies on account of probably being bitten by something on his way out of the hospital, or maybe in recovery, or well, not in recovery. That's not going to happen there. But he's probably like goes home, gets attacked by like a dog or something that has rabies, and then he's fucked.
Not supposed to have in immunocompetent people. But everything seems great. A few weeks pass. J.A. is feeling excellent and recovering well. But 5 weeks after the transplant, something was wrong.
Something was wrong. I'm wondering. Maybe it was.
Gaza is at a tipping point.
I don't care.
Hey.
Maybe it will actually go in the direction I think it's going to go in. Maybe it will.
Quick question. Have you learned a couple things from this video so far? If you have, and you aren't subscribed yet, I'd appreciate it if you did subscribe and come back to see the video that I published. Anytime he even brought a glass of water to his face, he'd have an overwhelming gagging sensation. When he'd force himself to sip the water, he would shake uncontrollably. The water, cupped in his mouth, would spill out, and he'd gasp for air, unable to swallow the water or breathe until finally, he'd spit it out. He needed to drink the water because he needed to take his immunosuppressant medicines, but finally, he just totally gave up and stopped taking them. One morning, J.A. was found on the floor in the bathroom shaking and screaming, his neck jerking in unnatural ways. So shocking to his wife that she calls for 911 and he's brought to the emergency room where we are now. At examination, doctors find a J.A. with fever.
So this old guy, or this guy who had his kidneys removed after his death, probably had rabies. Nope, it is going in the direction I thought it was going in. The guy that died had rabies, and when they took his kidney out, surprise, here's a gift. You got rabies. Sorry, we didn't do our due diligence in making sure the fucking patient didn't have any issues. We didn't check. Whoops.
Stiff neck, agitation, and paresthesia. The brain is involved, the nerves are involved, and fever indicates an inflammatory process. So, if he's on immunosuppressants because he's 5 weeks post-kidney transplant, then everything put together points to meningitis. Itis meaning an inflammation of the meninges, the membrane covering the brain and the spinal cord. Neck stiffness is a telltale sign. The fever is the immune system trying to react to a pathogen that got through because the immune system was getting held down to protect his transplanted kidney. There's one way for them to tell if this is meningitis. The brain and the spinal cord.
The meningitis, yes.
Are surrounded by cerebrospinal fluid, CSF. In meningitis, this fluid will be infected. It might have protein and sugar floating around in it. Doctors stick a needle in his back to collect a sample of this fluid, but there's a problem. It'll take about a day to grow out detectable amounts of bacteria or fungus from it. If they wait for the results to come back before giving him treatment, a whole day's worth of pathogen could grow, and that could be life or death, but there can be other signals. When they look at the fluid, it wasn't cloudy. Analysis didn't show abnormal amounts of protein or glucose. It all seemed normal. An MRI shows that something is happening. It's not normal, but it's also not clear what it is. It does kind of look like it could be a viral infection, if anything. Given all of this information, J.A. is started on antiviral medicine and empiric antibiotics, doing nothing, while all the evidence points to something is life-threatening, especially at a time like this when every second counts. But something else entirely was going on. On the second day in the hospital, J.A. was found in his bed, choking on his own spit. When he tried to cough, he would choke again. At times, he'd shake violently in bed, but then he became unresponsive. Doctors sedate him and put a tube down his throat to protect his airway and so that a machine can breathe for him. When they look at the test results for the bacteria and fungus from his cerebrospinal fluid, they found out this isn't meningitis. So, what could it be? Doctors had written a problem list. They need to reason out why each one is not the problem and figure out from there. Now that it's not meningitis, it narrows down the list. J.A.'s problem started 7 days ago. This pace is important. If he deteriorated like this in 7 seconds instead of 7 days, he'd have a completely different problem. 7 seconds usually means some kind of blood vessel problem, like a clot blocking flow or a bleed. If it took 7 years, that's a different problem in the opposite direction. It could be neurodegenerative, like amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS, or it could be a tumor. But the MRI didn't show a tumor. There was no brain bleed. This means he has an infection, but which one? Tetanus causes muscle spasms. These can make it impossible to swallow, but tetanus doesn't usually cause an altered mental state. Diphtheria is caused by a bacterial toxin that strips off myelin sheath from nerves. It can cause problems swallowing, but it also makes it so that patients have trouble moving their eyes, their tongue, their face can start to droop. None of those happening to J.A. Botulism is also caused by a bacterial toxin, but it paralyzes the patient, and J.A. isn't paralyzed, leaving one final infection to be the possible problem. Rabies is an infection. It's from a virus. Patients are first incubated after contact with rabid animal saliva. That saliva has to get into the body, so it's from a bite or a scratch that breaks skin. And then the virus settles for weeks, and then the prodrome appears. Pro here meaning early, and drome from Greek referring to road or path down which one is headed. This is the early set of symptoms that worsen as the patient descends into the acute neurologic phase, followed by coma, and then the end. J.A.'s extreme aversion to water, dubbed as hydrophobia, is unique to rabies. The other infections don't usually cause this. His other symptoms were all consistent with rabies too, but there's a problem. J.A. never came into contact with any animals. He didn't have pets, he didn't go outdoors.
Yep, it's going in the direction I thought it would be going in. It is literally the transplant that gave him rabies.
Prior to transplant, he was sitting in dialysis for several hours, several days a week, and post-transplant, he didn't leave the house either. Human rabies is extremely rare in the whole United States. Just 125 cases had been reported in the 58 years from 1960 to 2018. So, how did he get it? Doctors contacted the Ohio Department of Health and Centers for Disease Control, and very quickly, J.A.'s saliva, his blood, his CSF, and other bodily samples were collected and sent to the CDC. Rabies virus RNA was detected in his saliva and his CSF, confirming rabies. When they sequenced the viral genome, they determined the rabies that J.A. had was from a silver-haired bat. But when public health officials interviewed J.A.'s family, they confirmed J.A. never had any contact with any bats or any other animal. So where did this virus come from? Health officials looked at J.A.'s medical record. His only contact from the outside world that broke his skin was the transplanted kidney. They traced back to the kidney donor in Idaho. They pulled up his medical record, no mention of rabies, but he was a middle-aged man who just suddenly died in his bed. Why did that happen? Idaho Department of Health and Welfare went to the donor family to interview them, and this is where they found out everything.
Remount and recover with the Planet Fitness Black Cord.
Join and get your first month free. Deal ends March 13th.
Grip, stability, precision. That's the essence of driving. Lawfin.
In December 2024, just days before he suddenly died in bed, the organ donor in Idaho suddenly became confused with difficulty swallowing and walking, hallucinations, and he had a stiff neck, just like J.A. did. 5 weeks before, in late October, the man was outside his house with a kitten. A skunk had approached them. Its body language was in a way that it was going to attack. The man kicked the skunk to protect the kitten, but it fought back until it fell unconscious. But it had scratched the man's shin in the encounter and drew some blood. The man was pretty sure it was only a scratch, not a bite, but the fact that it broke skin is a cause for concern. It's just that he didn't know it at the time, and this is what started this tragedy. Rabid animals will hypersalivate. Virus is in the saliva, either from a bite or a scratch. Because these animals lick their claws, the infected saliva can make its way into human bodies when skin is broken. Rabies virus replicates in muscle cells at the site of inoculation. At the neuromuscular junction, where nerves connect to the muscles, the virus gains access into the nerves. They migrate a few inches every day until they reach the spinal cord, where they start moving towards the brain. This period is the incubation and prodromal stage, where bad things start to happen. In the spinal cord, virus moves very quickly. It gets to the brain, and then, very quickly, it spreads out widely through the nerves. In highly innervated places like the salivary glands, viral replication explodes. Viral shedding gets all over the body. The damage that rabies physically does to the brain appears mild when compared to other diseases, at least from what we know at the moment. By the time the medical team did the brain MRI for J.A., the diffuse, inconclusive finding may have been the rabies already there, causing dysfunction rather than brain death. And when rabies spreads, should that person become an organ donor after it's over, that virus will make its way into the organ recipient's body, infecting them too. The reason this is particularly scary is that neither the patient nor the medical team knows rabies is even involved at all until it's too late. The donor, who was previously healthy, died suddenly with nothing on their medical record by the time the organ recipient develops symptoms.
So, in essence, this guy ends up dying, and then when they take his organs, they don't check anything. I mean, I get it. You're probably thinking, oh, you know, he died of a heart attack or something, right? Nothing too unusual. But I 100% believe if this does not lead to them actually being more careful, because again, I think there comes a point where they have to do their due diligence and actually do some research on the history of a donor before they even give somebody an organ. And I think this is one perfect example of that. One good example of that.
Viruses are already in the brain, spread throughout the body, and the medical team will have wasted time ruling out the most obvious problems caused by complications post-organ transplant. This was a chain reaction of unfortunate events culminating in the final disaster. Health authorities tested a sample of what was left of the organ donor's right kidney and detected rabies virus RNA consistent with the silver-haired bat rabies variant.
So in essence, they could have tested the fucking organ then before they could put it in there. They just didn't. Yes. No. You know what? No. They could have. They just didn't. No. The doctors are fucking stupid.
Variant consistent with the one found in JA, explaining how JA got it. How do you treat something like this? Time matters. When the kidney donor got the...
You could treat this, and I do know of the story of the girl who had been bitten by a rabid animal. They had essentially put her under and put her into an induced coma for a while, and then after they did that, they essentially let her immune system just come back and just fight it while she was in the coma, so her brain wouldn't get fucked to hell, and hopefully when she did come back, she would still be able to, you know, live a normal life. Turns out, when she did come to, and I think she was pretty young when this happened too, so her brain was still capable of, like, you know, recovering. When she came back, it was like, you know, obviously a recovery, but when she fully recovered, it was like nothing happened. It's like she was just fine. So she survived rabies. Granted, it's a very rare thing to survive rabies. It does happen. It's just not common.
Skunk scratch. He had just a window of days where he could have gotten it checked out and received post-exposure prophylaxis. There's two medicines here. The first is antibodies that neutralize the virus, and the second tells the body to produce even more of those antibodies so that viruses that have already replicated can be neutralized and that the body can continue to neutralize viruses for years afterwards. When health authorities tested serum samples from the organ donor that were collected when he presented to the hospital before he died, they found out he didn't have any rabies virus antibodies. This confirms his family's statement that he didn't seek out any treatment after the skunk encounter. But it also tells us that his body didn't have enough time to, or wasn't able to, react to this infection. But J.A. is still alive right now. Is there anything that can be done for him? In the hospital, blood tests find that J.A.'s body has produced rabies antibodies. However, by the time he presented to the emergency room, his disease had become so advanced, virus had replicated all throughout his nervous system and the rest of his body. It had come in from the transplanted kidney, traveled through the nerves, got into his spinal cord, and from there reached his brain, the nerves sending signals from...
They could do, it's a Hail Mary, but they could do what they did to that little girl and fucking put him in an induced coma. It's not like grown adults can't recover. Like, there's a guy who shot his fucking brain, who shot himself in the head because he was depressed and he wanted to kill himself. He survived and he's just fine. His brain, he recovered, and he doesn't have any fucking loss of motor functions at all. And if it is, it's like really, really minor. So they probably could induce this dude into a coma, do what they did with that girl, and let his immune system just kill the fuck out of this thing. And then when he comes to, if he survives and he wakes up, do a shit ton of fucking physical therapy.
From his brainstem to his heart, quickly becoming dysfunctional because of the virus. His advanced presentation, conflated by a difficult diagnosis in a disease that doesn't have much treatment this late in the course of illness, made it difficult for the medical team to do much more outside of supportive care. But J.A.'s case wasn't the only exposure. Public health officials found out multiple people received cornea tissue from the eye from the donor in Idaho. 3 patients, one each from California, Idaho, and New Mexico, were recipients.
They're dead. Like, straight up, they're dead. They're dead. They're dead. Like, oh no, it's just a cornea. No, they're dead. They're fucking dead. You want to know why they're dead? Because the way rabies works, it gets into your saliva glands, and I'm sure it gets into your fucking tear ducts too. You're dead. They're dead. 100% you're dead. I'm not joking, because on top of that, your eyeball is like the closest thing to your brain. Yeah, no, you're dead. You're fucking dead.
This too can transmit rabies. These patients were tracked down, the grafts were removed, and post-exposure prophylactic therapy were given to them. A 4th patient in Missouri had corneal transplant scheduled from this donor, but luckily, health authorities were able to stop it in time. The healthcare workers who came into contact with J.A., who came into contact with the Idaho donor, and who came into contact with the 3 cornea recipients were also identified and given post-exposure prophylactic therapy.
My heart's fine.
I'm only 40. Ignoring your heart health risk is no...
The unfortunate part about the situation is that it isn't the first time it's happened in the United States. In 2004, doctors at a hospital in Texas diagnosed 3 organ transplant patients who got encephalitis. A 4th patient was also diagnosed after receiving part of a blood vessel during a liver transplant. All 4 patients became progressively obtunded and lapsed into coma and then died within 50 days of their transplant. At the time the patients expired, doctors were stumped. When they did their diagnostic tests, everything was ruled out. They asked the CDC and the Texas Department of State Health Services for help because these all happened at the same place. This means that there could have been some kind of outbreak happening, and when investigators looked, they found out all 4 patients had received organs from the same donor, and that donor had contracted rabies. When he died, there were no mention of rabies in his medical record, but they detected rabies virus RNA in his body when they tested for it. And the organ recipients who died had the exact same rabies virus RNA in their bodies too. In countries where rabies is more common, this situation of infection from organ transplant is more well known, and JA would have the same experience as these other rabies-infected organ recipients. On hospital day 7, JA's heart stopped beating. Doctors rushed into his room to try to resuscitate him, but no matter what medicines they gave him and the CPR.
Yes, here's the problem. If you're trying to resuscitate someone who has rabies, there's no point in trying to resuscitate them. They're not going to survive anyway, you dumb fucks. Like, what the fuck is the point of keeping them alive, dumbass? Like, I'm just going to be honest. He's dead. Why are you trying to resuscitate someone with rabies? They've already gotten to the advanced stages already. You know, at this point, it was going to happen. What's the point? Why? You think you can just suddenly magically make them, like, healed after you fucking revive them? No. They're dead. What are we doing? Why are we doing this? Oh, he has rabies. oh, he's in advanced stages. There's nothing we can do except give him supportive care until he dies. Oh, he dies. Oh, let's try to resuscitate him. Like, what the fuck? Yes, that is just such a good idea. Resuscitate the guy who died from rabies, yes. The guy who's getting supportive care and is going to die anyway. I'm sorry, what? Huh? Bueller?
CPR, they weren't able to resuscitate him. At autopsy, his brain samples were sent to the CDC. Confirmation of his rabies diagnosis by the CDC laboratory happened after he passed away. By the time he presented to the emergency room, the disease was so advanced and the virus had spread so deep, he only had a few days left. Investigators sequenced the RNA they found in J.A.'s samples and found out it was from the same silver-haired bat variant as was found in the Idaho kidney donor's body. They determined that a bat infected the skunk. The rabid skunk scratched the donor, infecting him, and then his organ donation subsequently infected J.A., and J.A., being someone post-transplant, didn't go outside, didn't interact with animals, was on immunosuppressants, could have had a variety of other, more obvious infections and related issues, but instead, it was the one infection that no one was thinking of at the time. After his case was published in December 2025, CDC had already been examining guidance on what to do so that this doesn't happen again. There isn't anything standard right now, but they want to raise awareness, especially in the situation where an organ donor had acute encephalopathy.
Here's how you do it. The dipshits, who are the doctors, should probably look at that fucking organ before they give it to you. Maybe look at it. Maybe take a look at that organ. If let's say my kidney fails, right, and I get like a kidney transplant, motherfucker, you better check the fuck out of that kidney before you give it to me. I don't care. Like, I would much rather die of kidney failure than die of fucking rabies. I'm just gonna be honest. Like, I'm 100%. I would much rather die of kidney failure. I'd much rather die of kidney failure than die of rabies, because rabies is painful. You don't want rabies. Don't get rabies. You don't want it.
When they died. It's really important for the medical team to gather a proper history. So while they figure that part out, what can you do? The first is, if you're in America, don't panic, because this is rare. But if you are in a...
This is rare, but it's happened a few times in the past, and it is a possibility. No, I'm sorry. I'm going to ask the fucking doctor to test that fucking organ before they give it to me, because that is ridiculous. Once is already one time too many. I'm sorry. And if it is rare here, then it should also indicate that doctors test the organs. They look at the organs, or at least they do something to look at them before they go ahead and just, like, put it into some other person. Like, no. Like, ugh.
In a place where there's rabies-susceptible animals, bats, raccoons, skunks, fox, coyote, and if you're in Asia or Africa, it'll mostly be dogs, you want to make sure that you get post-exposure prophylaxis therapy. This really even goes for something like Americans who go camping in places where there might be bats and you're sleeping without a tent or any covering over your entire body. Rabies prophylaxis is a medical urgency and not an emergency. You have a few days to get it after any possible exposure, but please keep in mind, it's days. It's not months, it's not years, it's days. And if you or a family member might be getting an organ, you might want to ask if they checked about the donor having acute encephalopathy at the time just before they transition to the state whereby they would give that organ to you.
Yes, that is, like, if I were to ever need an organ donated to me, right? Yes. I am going to straight up go up to the doctor and say, oh, we found a donor and we'll give it to you. Okay, yeah. Make sure the fucker who had that organ before me didn't have rabies, please. Thank you. Or any disease, for that matter. I don't care if it's going to make it take, like, an extra week or two. Or even a month. I got a month. I can survive a month. Fucking check that shit.
You. Thanks so much for watching. Take care of yourself and be well.
Meet Nature's original.
Shut up. You are not putting. Oh, shut the fuck up. You are not putting that stuff in me unless you check that shit. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not getting some guy's freaking STD. A mob did chiropractic maneuver on her own neck. This is what happened to her brain. She cracked her neck and suddenly died. Science mutilation. Mutilated by space-time curvature.
Hi, one of my viewers posted.
During their first investigation at Miller Ranch, Andy and Paul conducted a Tesla coil experiment under the bridge that triggered you.
I can't believe they brought my buddy into this stupid fictional situation. He must have been cringing so hard in that situation.
Okay, anyway.
Hi, Dr. Bernard here. This video is based on a case published in literature. Hi, Dr. Bernard here. This wake up and she didn't know where she was. She didn't know what day it was and she didn't know where.
She cracked her neck and suddenly she had amnesia. If you go to the chiropractor, you will lose your memory if you get your back cracked. That is exactly what will happen. Or you'll have a stroke. Or you'll die. Or you'll take a really, really gnarly shit for some reason.
Where she had to be, and her grades at school just suffered. CN lost most of her friends during this time because everyone just got frustrated at talking with her. If she even showed up in the first place, she didn't understand what anyone was saying, and it gave them the impression that she just wasn't listening. And sometimes she would forget to respond for days.
It's cold as shit in here, but then again I remember I turned the heat off. I turned the heat off because I didn't want it running constantly.
So people just gave up. No one wanted to be friends with someone who does that all the time. Finally, one day, CN had a urinary tract infection that brought her into the hospital, but something was wrong. This wasn't related to her poor habits with toilet paper and touching things. She was clean now. Rather, CN had...
She had gone to the chiropractor, and suddenly she had a really horrible disease.
Somehow developed type 1 diabetes.
She got her back cracked and got type 1 diabetes.
This is a time when the pancreas is damaged and no longer makes insulin, which is...
Her back got cracked, it damaged her pancreas, and she got diabetes. Let's go.
It's a hormone that's released after you eat to tell the body's cells to take in sugar from the food that you just ate. But when there isn't any insulin being made, the sugar stays in the blood, and this causes organ damage.
Listen to this man, all right? Listen, all right? Anybody who goes to the chiropractor, all right? Realize that you're at risk of getting diabetes, because if you get your back cracked, it may damage your kidney or liver or your whatever organ, and suddenly you'll die. Or you'll crack your neck and you'll have amnesia for some reason. I don't know how that works, but yeah.
The nerves start to shut down, the kidneys fail, the feet might need to be amputated.
Oh no, she went she went to the chiropractor, got her back cracked, and suddenly her feet started rotting off.
Because sores develop and they don't heal. The brain can't function in this environment, so executive function becomes impaired, explaining why she wasn't being her normal self. But her diabetes also explains this particular urinary tract infection.
She got a UTI from a back crack, yes.
In extreme hyperglycemia, hyper meaning high, glyce from glucose referring to sugar, and emia meaning presence in blood, high sugar presence in blood, sugar gets into the urine. And because sugar grows bacteria, when sugar's in the urine, it predisposes one to horrible urinary tract infections, just like the one that CN had, but her problem didn't stop here. In the hospital, CN's infection wouldn't respond to antibiotics typically used for UTI. As the bacteria started spilling into her blood, it caused her body to send an immune response. Kind of like how when you get a cut, it becomes swollen with fluid and warm. When bacteria floats around in your blood, your entire body becomes swollen. The blood vessels dilate, dropping blood pressure so much that the organs can't get blood anymore. Without oxygen, the organs fail. And this is what was happening to CN, and they found out why. The sugar in her urinary tract had grown a rare bacteria not often found in UTIs, and so they elected to change her antibiotic to one that can destroy this particular bacteria, and things seemed to be okay for her. But at home, discharged from the hospital, CN seemed okay at first. She went out for a walk, and suddenly her left knee and calf started hurting so bad that she collapsed to the ground. Back at the hospital,
all this stems from a chiropractor. You go to a chiropractor, you get your back cracked, and then you suddenly are like about to die. Like, I'm not even joking. You will die. It's like, oh hey, I'm going to the chiropractor to get just get an adjustment on my back, and then all of a sudden, just out of the blue, just because reasons, you get your back cracked and suddenly you have like heart failure.
doctors found that CN had partially ruptured tendons in her left leg. A 20-year-old woman shouldn't have this happening.
She got her back cracked and her tendons ruptured. Yes.
But when the medical team looked, they found that antibiotic that was given to her for the UTI can cause tendon rupture.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not from the back crack, though. It's not from the back crack. Give me a second.
Factor is proof that healthy food can taste unbelievably good.
The Mediterranean diet is the
It took months for her to recover from this physically, but mentally, she never recovered. CN was never sure if the pains in her left leg were real or phantom pains, but even worse, this experience gave her health anxiety attacks. As the years passed, CN's anxiety resulted in chronically high blood pressure. When she'd see the doctor, it just seemed that her blood pressure was always higher than normal just at that visit. She tried to tell the doctor that it wasn't normally this high on any regular day. She was just afraid that the doctor was going to tell her that something new was wrong with her, that it is, no doubt, a catastrophic illness that will for sure shorten her life, and that they absolutely must start some new medicine for her because she has it, and that new medicine will do what the last medicine did, cause terrible, permanent damage to her body. But in reality, her blood pressure really was chronically high, and this would cause her to have terrible headaches. CN had read online about how sometimes headaches are caused by misalignment of bones in the neck. and that when these bones push down on nerves going into the skull, well, this is one cause of headache. In her mind, this was very clearly the cause of all of her problems. When she watched videos online of how necks get adjusted, she got the idea of how to do it herself. She didn't need medicines. She didn't need to hire an expensive specialist. She touched her neck and knew exactly what to do as she laid her head down on a staircase and rotated her body. Immediately after cracking her neck, the headache that Cian thought she had simply went away. This was like a miracle to her. She would keep doing this day after day. Most of the time, she knew in her mind that she felt so much better. But one day, something was wrong. At the top of the stairs, Cian held her head down. She put her body in the position that she always did. She turned her head left and twisted her body. Immediately after the cracking sound, Cian didn't feel well. She felt like her eyes were wobbling in her head. In the bathroom, at the toilet, Cian immediately emptied her stomach. Her headache didn't get any better. She started pacing around because no matter what, she could feel that there was a throbbing sensation that was wrapping around her head. She could see her heart beat in her field of view, and as the minutes passed, she'd see sparkles come in and out as things started to get dark. She tried laying down, but then finally, she didn't get up anymore. When her husband finds her on the floor, Cian was shaking as she's brought to the emergency room where we are now. At examination, doctors immediately noticed that Cian had an extremely high blood pressure. She was still conscious for a few minutes, but she wasn't able to speak, and then she became unconscious. Doctors and her husband had no idea what happened. They didn't know what she was doing beforehand, but clearly something had happened to her brain. One thing that can be done is to see if something happened to the blood supply going to her brain. And we can visualize this. There's two things to know. First, blood going to the brain is oxygenated. Nature tells us how important the brain is because it's one of the first places that blood goes to once it leaves the heart. If something stopped that blood flow, then Cian's brain was being starved of oxygen. This will cause immediate, permanent damage. But why would that happen? And that's the second thing. Blood goes to organs via arteries. Anatomy tells us the possibilities. 1. Arteries can be blocked, usually by a blood clot. 2, they can narrow because of a plaque that can obstruct blood flow. 3, they can bulge out and pop, something called an aneurysm. Or 4, the inner lining can rip apart and blood can tear inside, separating the arterial layers and then clotting, blocking blood flow. Doctors inject a dye while running a CT scanner on CN's head to see if they can visualize where problematic blood flow might be. When they do this, they find that a very short segment of an artery in the region where CN's skull meets her spine in her neck was thickened. This could be a problem, but maybe not. But other than that, everything else was normal. In the intensive care unit, CN would respond to stimuli. They would squeeze her trapezius muscle to get a response. But as the hours pass, no amount of squeezing would yield any feedback. Shortly after her arrival, a CT scan revealed that a huge portion of the front right part of her brain was bleeding. Hey, I got a quick question. If you like this video, I want wanted to let you know I publish once a month, and I try my best to make each video worth your time. I've been making these since 2017. If you do find this valuable, I'd love it if you subscribed and come back to see my next video too. The brain is covered by thin tissues that protect it. Between these layers is something called the subarachnoid space. The CT scan found that CN's brain was bleeding right into this area, but there was more. The brain has fluid-filled cavities on the inside that serve as a communication network called ventricles. There's 4 of them, and they're interconnected. There was extensive bleeding into CN's ventricles, so much so that her brain was swelling. It was distorting, and parts of it were getting pushed off to the sides while getting crushed up against her skull. If imaging showed that her brain arteries were okay, why is her brain bleeding like this? The vertebral artery originates from the subclavian artery, which comes from the aorta, which is the largest artery in the body where blood emerges from the heart. The moment that blood leaves the heart, one of the first places that it goes to is the right subclavian artery, which goes to the right vertebral artery to head directly to the brain. The problem is the vertebral artery enters into the cervical spine and it passes through these holes called transverse foramen. As you go up towards the brain, you start to notice all these delicate structures that receive blood from this artery. And because it's built this way, if an accident happens, terrible things happen to the brain. If trauma is applied to the vertebral artery, such as a twisting motion that outside the body looks like a chiropractic maneuver on one's own neck, then the shear stress can cause a tear on the inside lining of the blood vessel. Blood rushes into this tear. At first, every time the heart beats, it packs blood in, ripping the layers of the blood vessels apart until it's so far in that the heartbeats can't rip in any further. This is called an artery dissection. And the blood that's already in pools. It starts to thicken and becomes like a gel. This narrows the lumen or inside hole of the blood vessel. And it was maybe the one thing that doctors saw in the emergency room when they tried to check the blood flow going to her brain.
Hey, someone's looking confident.
Ow, ow! New groomer?
The problem is, by the time you get to the vertebral artery segment in the brain, the arterial walls are thin. Everything's delicate. When handled without care, it can easily rip. The end of this is massive bleeding. When bleeding happens in the ventricles, the brain can swell and crush against the skull. Other parts of the brain will twist and get shoved into the base of the skull. These are called herniations, and this was observed to be happening to CN on her CT scan. Headache and nausea are common in subarachnoid hemorrhage. The pressure on the brain starts to cause one to become
be right back. I love it when I do a full fucking sentence and I have mute on. I love that. I love it. I love it. I love when this happens. Oh god, I hate it. Anyway, I gotta go check on something. I'm gonna go mute again, sorry. Oh, I remembered to unmute myself.
Sensitive to light and cause one's neck to become stiff, something that may not be out of the ordinary for CN, given the movement that she did with her body. In her case, as blood moves down towards her spinal cord, it irritates the surrounding nerves, causing neurologic issues. And as the minutes and hours pass, more and more permanent damage is being done to CN's brain. But this should be really weird. Looking at the anatomy of how the arteries are laid out in the cervical spine, the one thing that we have to ask is, how often does this happen? You might be familiar with how sensitive the neck can be. At one point, you may have stretched funny and then felt a sharp tinge in your neck, and the next thing that you know, you pulled something and your neck is stiff for the next week. And that's just muscle. There's nerves and major blood vessels here, the latter of which, something funny happening can be fatal. When we look in the literature, we find that sometimes, and this is very rare, people will just move their head and it's over. Sudden headache with severe nausea ending in massive brain bleed so bad that the blood supply is just lost. Blood floods in, never circulates again, and clots, starving the brain of oxygen. A case series published in 1981 described 8 patients. One was a 38-year-old woman who turned her head while driving, and immediately the back of her head had a sharp pain, and she...
Like, that is some insanity right there. Like, I'm not even joking. That is some insanity. You get a stroke from just looking at the fucking, whatchamacallit, what's going on the other side of your vehicle or something like that, and suddenly you're dead. Yeah, I pushed too hard in the bathroom and I'm dead now. Yes.
She suddenly couldn't see while she was on the road. In the hospital, she had trouble moving her right arm and her brainstem started shutting down. The brainstem controls breathing, and they knew hers wasn't working anymore because they saw her become unable to breathe properly. at autopsy, they found that the middle and back parts of her brain had been bleeding because of an injury to the right vertebral artery. This wasn't the only one.
Whether you're a professional technician or simply take pride in maintaining your own cars, Harbor Freight.
Another 58-year-old man turned his head while backing up his car. He proceeded to lose vision in both of his eyes for 5 seconds. He then got the worst headache of his life and started emptying his stomach from his mouth. 2 days later, he was unable to move his eyes and
he died. He suddenly died. Like he went to look at somebody, had a neck pain, and suddenly died. This doctor's wearing Crocs, by the way. This doctor's wearing Crocs.
And imaging found that his left cerebral artery had dissected, but luckily he was still alive and taking medication for this 11 months after this had happened. One important takeaway from this paper is that blood vessels in the neck can break at any moment.
Bro, like, I must have had, like, some shit going on, because when I had that sneeze, right, I fucking, like, it was pain in my head. I had, like, this really awful, like, stinging pain on the side of my head and my temple. I'm just like, oh my God, what's going on? And it lasted for a while. And then I lost feeling in the right side of my face. And then it came back, and I was like, oh yeah, hey, it's fine. Like, I have no clue what happened. I don't know if it was from that sneeze that gave me that pain, or if it was just something else. I don't know.
Starving the brain of oxygen and causing permanent damage. But everyone watching this knows that this isn't the norm. I'm not breaking any vertebral arteries doing this right now. So what would predispose someone to have this happening to them? We have a little better of an idea now versus 1981. One reason that's important, but not everyone is going to have this, is connective tissue disorder like Marfan syndrome or an Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. These can impact the integrity of the arteries and could predispose one to problems like dissection and aneurysm, but CN didn't have either of these. The body has the amazing ability to adapt. In context of disease, we call this adaptation compensation, because it's the body making changes responding to a pathological situation that could be remedied if a treatment is available. Do you remember CN's hypertension? Well, chronic hypertension causes permanent negative body changes. The heart's a muscle. When pressure is high all the time, we can guess that the heart is working harder than normal. What happens when muscles work harder than normal? They get bigger. They hypertrophy. If you're talking about biceps, triceps, quads, glutes, lats, maybe you do want hypertrophy. But when we're talking about the heart, we don't want that. Thicker walls of the heart means that it's harder to eject blood to the rest of the body, and cardiac hypertrophy is permanent. You can't just let the heart rest like you can skeletal muscle, because that means your heart stops beating and you're not alive anymore. This is how the heart compensates, but it's not the only thing that becomes jacked. When pressure is chronically high, shear stress along the arterial lumen is increased, and arteries are vascular smooth muscle. If we've already established that the heart muscle hypertrophies because of chronic hypertension, then we can also say that the arterial smooth muscle will also hypertrophy with the increased load appearing in the form of greater shear stress. The resulting vascular remodeling causes the arteries to become more narrow and harder, but CN also had diabetes. Regardless, type 1 or type 2, the metabolic consequences of blood sugar disorders predisposes one to atherosclerosis. Athero from Latin based on Greek, referring to growth, or the appearance of what we now know as fat, and sclerosis, also from Greek, meaning a hardening of the arteries due to fat deposits. All of these bodily changes put CN at a greater risk of dissecting her vertebral artery, especially when self-performing a very physically rough maneuver on her own neck. Typically, when light is shined into the eyes, the pupils will constrict so as to react to the amount of light. This is a reflex by the brainstem. When the pupils don't react, it means that something is wrong with the brainstem. And in CN, her pupils didn't react. Given that this was happening with a CT scan showing subarachnoid hemorrhage, brain hemorrhage, and brain herniation.
I'm confused. Why are we looking at a video of a guy cleaning the floor?
All of these are very bad signs, and things didn't get better for her. this didn't have to happen. CN had a lot of past negative experience with medicine. She had a significant past medical history of recurrent UTI, type 1 diabetes, fluoroquinolone-associated tendinopathy, hypertension, anxiety, and possible autoimmune disease. If you take the chiropractic part out of this, her turn to self-performed therapy was especially high risk, particularly given all the risk factors that she did have. To say that she didn't know may not be entirely correct. We see it in movies and TV when someone snaps somebody's neck and then they collapse to the floor. It's just in this case, hers wasn't a movie. It wasn't a joke.
Local tax experts are here. Now you can meet with a TurboTax expert in your...
She actually did collapse and she was never able to get back up again. At autopsy, evidence of injury on the left side of her neck were found. When they looked at her heart, they saw that the left ventricle had been starting to hypertrophy, consistent with her chronic hypertension. Diffuse cerebral edema was found with subarachnoid hemorrhage at the brainstem and the cerebellum. Blood clot was found in the right vertebral artery that was going into the right base of the skull, and this made sense because her injury was on the left side, so there was a contralateral impact given the nature of her maneuver. They found that her brain did herniate, that it did crush down into the base of her skull, and another part started folding in on the brain, causing the blood supply to those areas to choke off. All of this confirming that she did have vertebral artery dissection due to self-chiropractic cervical spine manipulation that resulted in fatal subarachnoid hemorrhage and cerebral hemorrhage. One of the most comprehensive...
Yeah, yeah. So, in essence, her being diabetic is what kind of made the artery snip easier, or it made it weaker than it should be, in essence. I believe that's what he's trying to say. Yeah. Go to the chiropractor, get your neck adjusted, and suddenly die. That's literally what it feels like. Or that's what it literally sounds like. Valkyrie's brother passed away, and she's like...
Her brother passed away, and she sort of made it about herself.
I didn't stream yesterday. My brother passed away yesterday, and my mom called me, and she's like, yeah, Mark died. And I was like, oh.
Huh? What?
Jesus, man.
I bet her brother just said something like abolishing police is bad and now she hates him forever.
Yeah,
West Jenner making...
yeah, he had a really bad alcohol problem, and he had
To be fair, if you were my sister, I'd have a pretty bad alcohol problem too.
Dude, West Jenner making edgy jokes, man. Challenge impossible.
I'm surprised you stopped at booze, to be honest.
Yeah. Jesus Christ, that's brutal.
Her brother passed away.
Factor just solved.
Okay. I am gonna put this up here. Whew.
Chocolate fundraiser. With the Chase mobile app, things move a
Okay, I'm back.
The general gives you.
Found your size? Look, I was surprised in chicken, but side of biscuit, that ain't enough for me. I want a number.
I don't know if I want to watch this.
You've caused quite a stir. By surviving, you've triggered a new game. This part will be familiar. You've caused quite a stir.
No. A man squatted 500 pounds after chugging 3 energy drinks, and this happened. After chugging 3 energy drinks, he suddenly died. That's how it is. That's how it works.
Why has live action never nailed Leon S. Kennedy? In Resident Evil Retribution, Johann Erb does resemble the Resident Evil 4 version visually, but he's folded into the Alice-centered storyline with minimal development, functioning more as tactical backup than as a character with agency or growth. So Leon comes across as a recognizable skin rather than the layered protagonist from the games. Basically Resident Evil 4 cosplay with a massive budget. Welcome to Raccoon City aimed to adapt Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2 more faithfully, casting Avon Jogia as rookie Leon, yet the script portrays him as inexperienced and often incompetent, leaning into awkward humor in ways many fans felt undercut his credibility. Why has live...
Give me a second.